So to begin, we're going to be having this conversation, specifically looking at the data that I took from your third block odd class, your sixth graders. And I have this set out for you. These are two different kind of chunks of data.
So are these both from the last class that you observed?
These, yep.
Okay.
No, this one is from the most recent.
Oh, gotcha.
And then this one is from 221, and it's 2 pages. So I'm going to let you kind of look over that. There are two different tools here. This one, I think I've showed you in the past.
Right.
And this one is
like the map of
really measures movement patterns, and that one I chose because you indicated that you wanted me to observe for whether students were seated and then whether students were in their assigned seat. And so that's what I looked for on both of these occasions. So to start, let's talk about how you think it went.
I think that the new seating organization helped a lot. Because there's not a lot of spaces between the tables, there was a lot less visiting, you know. I did give people a choice this time around because it was very hard to sort of make assigned seats with so many chairs and individually. And the deal was is if they stayed in their seat and did what they were supposed to, like did their work, that they could stay where they were. But if they did not, then I would choose their seat. So and essentially, if they wanted to pick, they had to do what they were supposed to. And if they chose not to do what they were supposed to, then I got to pick.
Okay.
So
just to clarify, is that so it sounds like you're saying that they're allowed to choose whatever seat in the room that they want, as long as they agree to stay on task for that day, or is it more of a general agreement for them to, if you're going to sit here, then you need to be doing what you're supposed to at all times?
It's a general, yeah.
Okay.
It's a general, at least at this point.
Okay.
I'm going to kind of see how it goes, and if I need to make adjustments, I'm always willing to change things.
Right. And how long has your seating been organized this way?
Not long. I believe this is only the second day, so it's the first day for them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay. So to what degree do you think your lesson met your objective for today?
For some kids, it met it very well. They were able to focus on making connections with the cardboard, and they were able to recall information that we've learned about the artist and what he does. I really want to take them to a place where they're sort of looking at what he did for inspiration for what they're going to build. So today was more of just like recall, seeing, hearing from Tyree himself, seeing him in person, and then they got to build with cardboard, but it wasn't about building a thing. It was about putting cardboard together in different ways so that when they make their own sculpture, they have some experience with putting it together.
More of an experimentation.
Exactly.
Than a product focus.
Exactly.
Piece.
Yes.
Okay, that's really great. Okay. So what did you notice about today in particular while I was in your room? Did anything stand out? And especially given that you've noted that this was day 2 of this new seating. Well, the first.
The first for them. Yeah.
First for them. How do you think they acclimated to the new seating?
I think it went better than I expected. But I'm waiting sort of to see how, like, if it's just because it's a new seating arrangement, you know what I mean? Or if it's the actual seating arrangement. So I'm just kind of hoping for the best, but, you know, open to adjusting if ever I need to.
And in a little bit, I want us to look at the difference between what I observed on the 21st of February and then what I observed today, and maybe see if you can find some patterns or cite some differences that have been collected in these two tools.
Okay.
So today, from what I observed, and we can talk about just today or both of these days, but what do you think this data says? Actually, let me step back a minute. Let's actually get into this first. Okay. So, all right, this one is from 221. This tool is pretty much me writing down everything I hear you say pertaining to your focus, which we identified,
Seating, yes.
which you identified
Yes.
as seating. And so here I've included times that things happen. So this is more kind of like this. And so I want to give you a second to just kind of look over this and see what pops out at you. Anything at all that you notice.
Just yelling their names.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that stands out to me.
Could you say more about that? Like, what is it?
Without like a follow through of like what my expectations are. Even if I know that they know what they are, I don't just want to yell names. I feel like I need to give them a direction. Oh yeah, they had fun doing that. Once they were into it, it was like they were totally focused. It was really awesome to see.
Right.
Especially with those. And this time, Cezanne actually won the competition, which totally shocked me.
Really?
Yeah. They had to make the connections. They had a piece of paper with like about 12 different ways to connect cardboard. And whichever group made the most got a prize.
Connections with the marshmallow and the...
No. Like our building thing today.
Oh, okay.
With the cardboard.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. They didn't win this one. I don't think his group won this one.
Oh.
But this one, he won, and he only worked with one other kid. He like sat there and was like so focused on what he was doing. It was like really amazing to see him that focused, because it's been a bit of a struggle in the past. So
what did you learn from that?
That he likes to build.
That's really useful information.
Yeah.
Okay, that's really good. All right. So let's look at just the timing. So I came in at the beginning of third block. That's pretty much right after the bell rang. And then I observed students running and bawling, arguing with one another, wandering. And then here I started documenting how many students, because it went from pretty much everyone to just a few. And I did want to indicate that it wasn't everyone.
Yes.
And so we're kind of, as you're correcting the behavior, we're whittling it down here. What do you see in terms of time frame for all of this?
Jaden Thomas, if you're in the building, please come to the front of the pool for pickup.
About 16 minutes to get seated.
Ms. Gonzalez, if you're in the building, please come to the main office. Ms. Gonzalez, please come to the main office.
And then I know during this period, some of them had to wait for their sketchbooks. And it's always like that waiting thing. It's like if they're waiting and they don't have anything to do, then they're just, some of them are going to find things to do.
So what could you do to address that particular issue, to cut down wait time?
Yeah. It's hard because some kids come in late. And so I definitely feel like I need to have some sort of policy with that. And I was a little bit more strict about it today, with expecting a pass and stopping those kids individually and really like telling them how disruptive it is when they come in late. We'll see if that helps with next class.
Right.
But they seemed like they took what I was saying seriously, because I was speaking to them one-on-one, and it wasn't really in front of everybody.
Sorry, motion sensor lights.
Okay. I would like to have like a set group of people hand out sketchbooks. I'm just curious, because it's not something that most kids like to do or help with, and it's also hard to hand out sketchbooks when kids are coming in late because they're not there to give them to. So I need to figure out a way to like make it more efficient. And I haven't quite figured that out yet.
Right. So that is kind of tricky. So one way I think you could cut down on wait time would be to have maybe 2 students rather than just one passing out books. And something I know that works for my classroom is I don't necessarily choose the student that is super eager to help,
Okay.
necessarily, not every
Sure.
time, but I'll choose the student who I know I can trust, and who won't put up too much of an argument. They'll do it.
Yeah.
You know, they're not dying to do it, but
Sure.
they'll do it. So that kind of adds a few more to the list of potential people to help me. Okay, so what does all of this tell us about your students' behavior?
They want to be out of their seats. They
They
have lots of energy.
Lots of
They want to
energy.
move. They want to socialize. They want to
Mhm.
move.
And
Perhaps they just need more of a routine, and I'm still trying to figure out what the best routine is, I guess. So
in terms of entering the room?
yeah, in terms of entering the room and handing out sketchbooks, and because that's kind of a newer thing with that class.
Well, it seems like you're really flexible and really open-minded about different ways to approach it, because from what I've seen, just being in your classroom, I've seen a few different iterations, and you trying to find something that works best for your
Right.
kids, which is a really positive thing, to be willing to tweak it consistently until you find the thing that works. I think that's really positive. Okay, so today, which students were successful?
Today. I was really blown away by Cezanne. I really was. Because he sometimes doesn't seem to have any interest. It depends on his mood. And sometimes he can, behavior just isn't as cooperative as, I've liked it to be. But just seeing him sort of in his element and like super focused
With the building.
with making those, I mean, he did like all of them and they were really well made. It just was like really, really impressed me.
That's awesome.
And so I kind of used that in my last class because a lot of the sixth graders know each other, and they were doing the same competition today. And so I asked, I said, "Do you guys know who won?" Because there's some of his friends are in that class, or some that are also have some of the same attitudes sometimes. Do you know who won this competition earlier? And I told them Cezanne, and they were like, "What?" And like, "Yeah, he won. He made like 11 different connections today." And so I was hoping that would kind of inspire them to like, jump on it, be more willing to try something new. But yeah, I was really
Did you find
impressed
that
with
it did?
his. So-so.
Okay.
So-so. Not as much as I would have liked, but
Okay. Okay, so Cezanne did a really good job with building.
Yes.
And surprised you because
Stayed
he
in
was
his
so
seat,
engaged.
so engaged.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it was really awesome.
So you learned something about him. That's
Yes.
huge.
Yeah, it was really awesome.
Okay, and then which students had difficulties today?
My classes are jumbling up in my mind. Let me think.
They're three odd.
Yeah. Maybe if I see the names and see.
I don't know.
They're all jumbling because I just had a sixth grade
I think
class.
I only wrote down 2 students' names.
Yeah, I think Kivian, yeah, he more wanted to play with the tape in that class, but he was in his seat, which was nice.
Okay. Is that unusual for him?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he does get out of his seat a lot, or he's on his phone. One of the two. And it's almost like, which do I want to experience? So I'm still trying to figure him out.
Okay.
I did have a couple kids that were in their seat most of the time, but they didn't really partake as much as I would have liked them to. They just kind of like did other stuff, but they didn't really try to make those connections with the cardboard. And I would have liked, I think that they're more drawers, and I don't know if that's why, but it's maybe it just wasn't as fun to them as it is to draw.
And that'll be something that you experience consistently as an art educator. You know, not everyone is going to love the thing
Sure.
you're doing. Not everyone loves ceramics. Not everyone
Yeah.
loves painting. But hopefully, you know, at least from my classroom, what I like to do is expose them to as many different kinds of things so that even if unit 1 isn't your thing or your favorite, at some point during the year, you're going to find something that is. And so that helps students kind of find a way in, so to speak. And it seems like you're doing that too with the variety of materials that you've been using,
Right.
the packing peanuts, the marshmallows and toothpicks, cardboard, recycled materials, all of that. And so students having difficulties, who would you, did you identify one student who you would say had the hardest time?
I guess I would say Kevion probably has the hardest time in art class.
Okay.
Like as far as being willing to sort of try new things, period. And he did a little bit with the packing peanuts, but he'll also do things to get attention from friends, like throw materials and like today he covered the back of his phone in tape. You know, he didn't really contribute to what the people at his table were doing. He more so kind of did his own thing to be, I don't know why he did it, but he was trying to make his own pop socket or something.
Okay. So does he normally gravitate to sitting with Elijah?
No, not really. He's usually next to Terrence, which I think he was today. And I think it was interesting to see Terrence because he's one of those kids that really does try to like do what he's supposed to do, but sometimes in the past Kevion sort of influenced him to sort of not make the best choices. But today he seemed to really want to build, and he was more like, all right, like I don't want to do that. Stop playing with me. Like I'm working on this. I'm focused on this.
That's huge.
So that was good. But yeah, Elijah probably shouldn't sit with them because when he's been on his own or with one other kid that he's friends with, he's a lot more, he can be very helpful. And I think we have a good relationship that I can like talk to him and, you know.
So how do you balance wanting to kind of make a deal, like you mentioned, that basically states if you get to choose your seat, you have to follow these rules.
Yes.
And those rules are staying in your seat and doing what you're supposed to be doing. How do you reconcile that with students who, like you mentioned, gravitate towards someone or could be near someone who could potentially be a distraction to them? So I guess my question is, how do you deal with a situation like that?
Yeah, I guess I would need to move them, you know, figure out a way to encourage them to sit in different sides of the room and I think there's a way to do it maybe at the beginning of class where it's not so obvious that that's what I'm trying to do necessarily and kind of
what might that look like?
I could put their sketchbooks like on the sides of the table that I want them to sit on.
Okay.
It's kind of what I did with second period today. Okay. And it worked for the most part.
So you said go to your sketchbook?
Yeah, there was still some kids that like were like, I can't find it. And I'm like, that's because it's not the seat you're in or whatever, or that moved it to a different seat or whatever. But it did sort of initiate a place to sit because when the first set of kids came in, there was a whole lot of choices, so it really didn't matter where they sat so far, you know. But when kids came in later, it's empty, yeah. Then they would gravitate towards people that were already sitting per se. So I could always put like Kevion's on one side and like Elijah's on another, and then whoever wants to gravitate. But I did like that they sat up front. I thought that was like, I was kind of glad that worked out because I was right there, and that like helped me sort of. Yeah, they were right in front of me, so they couldn't like be as sneaky as they tended to try to be.
That's really good. Okay. So So what do you think would happen if you assigned seats? What would the scene look like?
I don't know.
Okay.
I guess it's overwhelming when I think about it.
This
I
is
think
not
it's
something
because
you want to tackle
because
right
when
now.
I think about like, it's different when you have like a table number. And I think once maybe I move those table numbers, it might be easier for me to differentiate them. But when I look at them now, I'm just like, it's just
You mean the
one
ones
large-
hanging above?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right now it's just like one large, like
Yeah.
giant long table. So it's
Mhm.
hard for me. I'd have to like organize it in some way.
Right. Okay. So if and when you ever want to tackle that, I can show you some of my seating charts and
Okay.
kind of how, I mean, my classroom, as you can tell, is set up quite differently than yours.
Yeah.
But I can show you kind of my methods
Okay.
of putting the high flyers in particular
Yeah,
areas.
I would love to see that.
Okay. And then so I'll just add that to my next steps.
Okay.
And we can talk about seating charts from there. Okay. I noticed, let's talk about today, because I have just so many.
Yeah, is that all writing from today? Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
I was really impressed by you
Really?
today. Yeah.
Wow, that means a lot. Don't make me cry. I've been like,
Oh, don't cry.
I'm like so sensitive, right? It's been like, I feel like I slept here last night and then I'll tell
That's
you
so
more later.
tough.
There's something else that happened yesterday, but so it's really nice to hear that.
So we're talking, what, less than a month of growth, okay? You identified here, it took approximately 15 or 16
Yeah.
minutes for them to all be seated, whereas today, I arrived at 10:18 and all the kids were seated by 10:19.
Wow.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's in, what, 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what the data is saying. Students who did get up were getting up to go talk to you, or getting up to ask about their sketchbook over here. So it's not like they were wandering aimlessly, like I identified here, or arguing or yelling or up out of their seat, like I identified here. They were on task. So let's look at some of the times. Here you were at 10:22, and then as everyone is working on their snapshot, you walked back around so that you could kind of monitor these kids in the back, which I thought was really good. This little girl who kind of came near me and then was at this table up here, she seemed to be having a tough time, but that I don't think was that kind of seemed like a one-off thing, maybe like something had gone on with her, and she was just kind of feeling it that moment. But I noticed a lot of other really cool things too. Here you were talking to these boys, Elijah and Kevion or Kevion? Kevion. And you said to them, you got to pick your seat. If you can't do what you're supposed to do, I'll pick your seat. And so you're kind of reiterating here what the agreement is. You're reminding them of the agreement that they entered into with you, which is really great. And then I was really impressed with how many students remembered the things you were trying to get them to recall while you were rewarding them with candy. So that's something that's working, right?
Yeah. With my harder classes, and that's just like a recent thing. I was talking to one of the Mr. Collier, and he was saying that he was just like would kind of hand out candy to see if they remembered questions, and he felt like they would pay more attention. So I was like, well, I'm just gonna I have some kisses and they're small. Let me see if that works out. And it definitely, even with my second period, which you saw that other time, candy. Yeah. Which I feel kind of bad about giving out candy, and maybe I'll change it up later so it's not, it doesn't get stale. But for those classes that have a hard time focusing, it definitely seemed to be a motivator to really pay attention.
Now, do you think it's like that's the food item
I don't know.
that's
For
motivating
some
them?
of them, definitely.
Or is it what you identified before, the
competition.
competition?
It could be. Yeah.
Because
Yes, it
they're
could
in
be.
competition with one another
Right.
to have the right answer.
Yeah.
And
Could
that's,
be.
I mean, if that's something that has sparked one of your tougher students
Mhm.
and inspired them, then maybe it's less about
The
candy
candy, yeah.
or the reward itself and more about winning.
Mhm.
And I definitely heard, I didn't take notes on that because, you know, I was taking data on seating.
Yeah.
But when you would give the kid the piece of candy, they would, I would hear them brag to their friends, like, I got two.
Oh,
you know,
really?
and yeah, so it was, to me, I could see how it could be both.
Okay. Good.
The food and the competition, the healthy competition amongst the class. Okay, so let's see. So, what are some classroom accommodations that you might want to make for specific students? I did notice one student kind of sat up here, kind of facing the wall.
Yeah. Yes.
Can you tell me more about that?
It was Eric.
Okay.
He always
By
chooses
choice.
to. Yeah.
Okay.
He chooses to sit up there because he used to sit at the table right behind him.
Mm-hmm.
And he's pretty quiet. And as you can see, some of the kids are not. And so
Right.
it seems like he feels more comfortable. It's kind of his little nook. So,
That's
but yeah, he
cool.
chooses to sit over there.
Okay. So would you ever accommodate a student, like have a solo seat for any reason? Is that something that you would do?
I have that table up there for that reason. Like if a kid
The one in the middle here? Or this
no,
one?
that one.
Okay.
Yeah. The one that's, because it's just, see what happens with these smaller ones is I noticed this afternoon, some kids were trying to just like pull up a bunch of chairs and make it like, you know, this, and I'm like, those are smaller chairs. Those are really, a smaller table is really meant for just like 4 kids
Mhm.
that I kind of want to keep. I mean, I didn't tell them that I kind of want to keep an eye on. But that one is really meant for someone, it's smaller and it's kind of in a corner, you know, so it's a little quieter and that's really just for kids that just need kind of a more quiet space, which is hard to get quiet in that room. But most of the time, kids choose to sit there. It's not something that I'm like, you know, go sit in the corner or anything like that.
No.
But if kids say, I don't want to sit by him, then that's always an option. So if kids are like, oh, like I can't stand him, don't make me sit by him because it's an assigned seat situation, I'll be like, well, you can always sit over there by yourself and then you don't have to worry about him. And then it's like, oh no, I don't want to sit there. And then I'm like, well, those are your choices. You can sit with them and we're, you know, or you can sit over there and then you don't have to worry about anyone bugging you. So
yeah. So you only want 4 kids sitting here?
Yeah.
How might you indicate that on the table? Or is that
I
something
only
you tell
put
them?
4 chairs. And so if I see them moving any chairs, I'm like, the chairs have to stay where they are. Like, I don't want to see anyone moving chairs around.
Okay.
Yeah.
Furniture stays put.
Yes.
Okay. So I think that's a really important thing to communicate to them.
Yes, I agree.
The furniture stays put. And I do the same thing in my room. They know not to move any of the furniture around. Okay. All right. So regardless of seating, I realize our discussion should be focused on seating, and it is, but I also wanted to note how impressed I was with how many kids remembered what you had taught previously.
Right.
I heard numerous students attempt to recall the name of the artist. I heard numerous students, specifically Elijah. Yes. That Elijah knew that Tyree Guyton was from Detroit, and he was not the only one who I heard yell out Detroit. And actually, they weren't. I would say they were raising their hands as well. some very emphatically, like standing up and raising their hands,
Right.
but they were really excited to know the answers to what you were saying. And then, so that, I really also liked the way you paced everything. So from 10:18 to 10:28 was 10 minutes. So in that 10 minutes, kids came in, sat in their seats, got their books, and did their snapshot. Then you moved on.
Yeah.
You moved on by pulling out the candy and starting to ask questions, and then they were focused on you. And that pacing was also really nice too, because you didn't do that for too long,
Right.
or too short of a time. You stopped that at 10:34, so 6 minutes of that. I thought that was really well paced. And then immediately after, you turned on the video about the artist. So, I mean, we're talking about maximizing instructional time in terms of moving on to the next thing. When I don't know if, well, maybe you can tell me. Is it you sense they're ready to move on, or you kind of want to beat them to the punch before they get erratic, or what is it?
Yeah, I kind of sense it. Like, I know, with the snapshots, and this is a newer way that I've done snapshots, is and I've noticed this past couple of days, well, I guess this is the first week that I've done snapshots on the projector. They really
I liked that a lot.
seem to like doing like technique-based stuff, because I hear a lot of kids say, I can't draw, I don't know how to draw, and so, okay, let me find something where it breaks it down, because it seems to me that when they see it broken down, then it's not so much about
The
I
9
can't do it.
steps.
Yeah. And they've done that before with other things, but not on a snapshot, and they really seemed to get into it. And then when they saw that they could do it, then it was like, okay, like I really can draw, and that was like a really cool thing to witness. But some kids would get started later than others, or some kids are more detailed than others. And so I didn't want to cut them off, but I thought if some of them still are straggling behind and they want to finish, then I can sort of transition by asking these questions, and the ones that aren't finished can finish, and the ones that are can answer these questions, and then they're not just sitting around waiting and getting into trouble, or getting bored. So
How do you think having the snapshot on the projector has impacted your classes?
I think it's changed a lot, because it's not the same old thing.
Mhm.
Because I was starting just to get kind of really lazy drawings, stick figures, and just like 2-second drawings. And I've really tried to change my expectation, because I did start checking them every class, and now I can just walk around and I don't have to like be on my computer and go check it or have them line up. I can see who's working on it. And with these ones, they just seem really into like following those steps and seeing if they can do it. And so it really has changed it. And also I wonder if it's because it's a new way. It's just getting bored with the other way that I was doing it before. So yeah.
I'm hearing that you're having success trying different things.
Yes. Yeah.
And switching it up, but also having success with like thinking through why kids might prefer a thing over another thing. Like reflecting on, oh well, they might want to see it broken down step by
Right.
step. Steps 1 through 9 to show how to draw the eye, because they want to build their confidence, or they want to have some guidance. But during the snapshot, of course, it's not supposed to be guided. It's supposed to be independent work.
Creative thinking, yeah.
Yeah, and so that's one way. I think that's a really smart, creative way around getting them to work independently with a little bit of help too. I think that's really, really smart. Okay. And then let's see. So yeah, I mean, when I left, all the kids were still seated. I didn't see a change. I didn't see a bunch of kids, jump up. From start to finish, I mean, it seemed like they were fully recognizing your new rule.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I feel like the new seating arrangement really helped a lot, and I'm like really excited about it, but I'm also like All right, hopefully it's not just because it's a new seating chart. I'm like trying not to get too like attached,
Right.
you know, with the success, because I feel like sometimes I get really discouraged when like things are going well and then things are just like not, and then I'm like, oh no, like maybe it wasn't that after all. So yeah, I was really impressed and surprised with how well they did today. And I'm hopeful that we'll continue on that path for sure. But I'm also like, I hope that the nuance of having the new seating chart and the new way that we're doing snapshots this week doesn't wear off. I gotta, always be thinking of the next way to, I don't know, change it up somehow.
I think we all do, and I think that's truly the key. One of the keys to great teaching is always being willing and wanting to change your practice to tailor it to the kids that are in your classroom. I think that's a really, really strong indicator of someone who is doing good work in the classroom. So I really commend you for that. That's awesome. All right, I think that's it.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.